I always find it's so interesting, right? That you were in a company and you built Little Bee Books while you were in that company for that company, right? And you had the resources of the company, right, to build this, which a lot of entrepreneurs don't necessarily have those resources when they start off, right? But at the same time, because you were able to build something um, that you can still call your own. You co-founded something, no matter who the umbrella was under, and then you made it, and then you basically bought it out. When that opportunity came to do the buyout, there's a conversation that's happening in the entrepreneurial community that why start a business when you can buy a business and you're still an entrepreneur. Maybe if it's possible, if you're able to just shed a little light on what that was as far as the dynamics of buying it from Bonnier. How did that go?
I think, well, the easiest thing about buying a company that you started is you know the ins and outs. There's two ways to buy a company. You can buy the assets or you can buy the whole company. And it's very hard to buy a whole company with the assets and the liabilities when you don't know the ins and outs. I did know the ins and outs. I knew all the liabilities and I knew the assets because it's something that me, along with my business partner, and I grew together. So for us, it was a bit of a no-brainer. We knew where the company was going. We knew what our mission was. We were very passionate about the mission. We knew the staff we had on hand and that they were passionate about the mission. So that part was a bit of a no-brainer, but I agree with very much with the one comment you made. I'm super grateful. Very few people have the opportunity to start a company from scratch, buy a company, sell a company, all with somebody else's resources. So I was very lucky with so many different steps that happened in my career. And I think, that has led me to where I am now. And it also has led me to understand the challenges. It has led me to understand the positives that come with it and also the risks. Owning a company, starting a company, regardless if you do it for yourself or for someone else, there's risk associated day in and day out. But I think the one thing that I'll say about buying a company versus starting a company, everyone has to do what's right for them. But the one thing I learned in starting a company is that every single day brings new challenges. No day is the same. And there are times where I learned more in one day starting a company than I did in 1 month working for somebody else. There is so much that you have to learn and so much that you have to do yourself. And it makes you a very well-rounded business person when you have to do that instead of when part of it is handed to you. And I'm very, very thankful that I have gone through that process, but I also know how exhausting it is and how much drive you have to get through it day in and day out.
I love that. There's a lot of times I'll get asked, what does it take to be an entrepreneur? And I say, I've said this before on my podcast, which is, yeah, you'll hear people say you need determination, grit, drive, all that stuff. But the reality is you need that for any profession. If you're an athlete, you need that. If you're an executive of a Fortune 500 company, you need that. But what, as an entrepreneur, what you really need is liking it. You need to like what you do because the amount of challenges that come your way, so I always say an entrepreneur needs to be a problem solver. And if you like being a problem solver, you're going to like being an entrepreneur because there's never going to be a period where it's just steady and going, right? Like you set the business and you think, okay, it's on autopilot. You always need your hand somewhere on that steering wheel, right? It's never autopilot. So I'm glad you said that. So that leads me actually to the next question, which is, you said as an entrepreneur, you learn more in 1 day than you did 1 month working for someone. So there's challenges that come across being an entrepreneur. Running Little Bee Books, what are some of the most common challenges you faced as you were running that company?
Like most startups, be it a startup in phase 1 or phase 2, most of our challenges are based around staffing and cash. It's so important to find a team that believes in your mission. And you might find great people, but sometimes they're not the people that believe in your mission, or you might find people that believe in your mission, but might not be the right people for the company. So having the right group of people surround you is so important. There's a lot of comfort in working for a larger company, especially in the publishing industry, because there's so many operational difficulties and efficiencies that need to be worked out. And in a startup, we're still figuring out so many of our different operational efficiencies and processes and procedures. So I think that finding people who can work in some discomfort is so important to success. And that's always something that is a challenge because people might want to be in that position, but not always thrive in an area without a lot of answers and with discomfort. So that's definitely something that's been challenging. And then for Little Bee Books in particular, and within the publishing industry for many small independent companies, it's marketing. We just don't have the marketing dollars to compete with a lot of larger companies. And this, I don't think this is publishing specific. So having to be not only scrappier, but smarter, more creative, grittier, it is a lot of work and a lot of effort. And that goes back to my first point. You have to have the right people around you. And when you do, you're really blessed because the buck can stop with one or two people. And you're right, being a problem solver is necessary for a leader. But really, if you don't have the right team, you're not going to get very far. So I think finding that team and then making sure that they stay motivated and they stay inspired is so difficult, but so important.
I love that. It is, first of all, 100% true in my own experience as well. Having a team that buys into the culture and a culture that you create that fosters even their growth and empowers the team itself, right? So like you said, they're a team that's willing to work through discomfort, but if the culture is built right, the discomfort is, it's an afterthought for them, right? It's really just a mission, right? They're mission driven. And it is the team that grows. A lot of times entrepreneurs start as solopreneurs and then they become entrepreneurs when they start building out a team.
Mhm.
And what's very hard for most entrepreneurs is delegating and giving up their own responsibility, like taking their hands off the reins of certain things. So no matter what you said, I think that is probably the biggest takeaway anyone can take from um, challenges of operating a business. Build a team that's good for you, that's right, that buys into culture, etc. So thanks for that.